Hello and welcome back to the Rugby Connection podcast. Well, we have got so much to talk about. We've got the Lions squad officially announced. We've got a roundup of the Premiership and the URC. And joining me is my lovely new co-host with a fresh cut. It's Harry. How you getting on, bud?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Fresh cut, feeling good. The sun's out, the shorts are on. It's great weather. And lovely to see some summer rugby.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got the big one to talk about. It's finally came. The British and Irish Lions tour of 2025. The squad has been announced, and overall, not too much to complain about, I'd say.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't say that there's any howlers. I wouldn't say that it's a very good squad. It's a very good squad. You can see what I think you can kind of predict the way that Andy Farrell and the coaching setup wants to play. There's a lot. It looks like that they look like they're going to play with the ball. It's not going to be like a heavy territory kicking game. It
Yeah.
looks like you want to run with it, play with it, and yeah, I think there's a couple of, I wouldn't say controversies. That's too strong a word, but there's a couple of
Yeah.
players that you think, ah, I think I know how you've got in, but I think we can. And I'm disappointed for a few guys because I
Of course.
thought that.
Yeah, there's always going to be disappointment. There's always going to be, oh, he should have been in. But
Mm,
and it's quite funny, right? Because it doesn't matter if it's me doing a video, yourself doing a video, or Andy Farrell, who is actually the head coach making the squad. People still aren't happy.
no, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's it's interesting because I'm hearing, and we'll probably get on to this. I'm hearing quite a few of there's a few names I'm hearing who should have gone over
Mhm.
someone, and there are a couple of people that people are very surprised are going at all. They're not even offering an alternate one. It is just a really they're going, but
Okay. Well, we're going to get into it because we have got the squad here. There's 21 forwards. We're going to name all them first. We've got Ty Byrne of Munster and Ireland. Yes, I'll do it like how Ian Evans does it on the squad announcement.
there you
We've
go.
got Ollie Chesham of Leicester Tigers and England for his first tour. Jack Conan of Leinster and Ireland on his second tour. Luke Cowan-Dickie of Sale Sharks and England also on his second tour. Scott Cummings of Glasgow Warrior and Scotland on his first tour. Tom Curry for Sale Sharks and England on his second tour. Potentially, but we'll get into that in a minute.
Mhm.
Ben Earl of Saracens in England, I believe it's his first tour as well. Xander Fegerson of Glasgow Warriors and Scotland on his second. Tyg Furlong of Leinster and Ireland. Hat trick for him. That's his third tour. Ellis Genge of Bristol Bears and England. That is his first tour. Maro Itoje, Saracens and England. It's his third tour. And most importantly, he is the captain. That is the correct choice. Well done, Maro. Ronan
Absolutely.
Kelleher of Leinster and Ireland. Joe McCarthy also of Leinster and Ireland. Both their first tours. Ronan Keller kind of, because he was with the boys
Uh,
last time, but just didn't get picked.
he was injury cover because of the guys playing in the final, which we can get on to how that
Yeah,
might be
yeah, of
another
course.
thing that's potentially happening. But he did actually go with the squad. He just didn't play.
Yeah, which is a weird one. But anyway, congrats to him. Jack Morgan of Ospreys and Wales. Henry Pollock of
Yeah.
Northampton Saints and England, owner of Bill this time round. Andrew Porter, Leinster and Ireland. It is also technically his first tour because he had to withdraw 4 years ago.
He did,
Jaden
yeah.
Ryan, Leinster, Ireland. Again, some people thought this should be his second tour, but it's still only his first. Dan Sheehan of Leinster and Ireland. We're getting a theme here. It's also
Mm.
his fourth tour. Pierre Schumann of Edinburgh and Scotland. It is the big man's first tour as well. Then you've got Will Stewart of Bath and England, first time tourist. And finally, in the forwards, Josh van der Fleer, Leinster, Ireland, also first tour. And breathe. There we go.
And
We'll, do-
breathe.
we'll talk about the forwards first because there's a bit more names. But I'm going to actually start with the young one, Henry Pollock. Oh my
Henry,
God, he's actually done it.
I he I mean, there was always Henry Pollock is one of those players that I remember, like I watched him a bit for the under 20s and I thought, my God, this guy, he's quick, he's dynamic, he's lippy, he has a bit about him, and I think, he looks pretty cool. He seems a pretty cool player. And the thing that is so great about him is that there were a lot of questions about, okay, he looks quite small. Like he's tall, he's a fairly tall
Yeah,
lad,
yeah,
but in terms of build for a back rower, he looked quite lean. He didn't really look like he was going to be that physical. Whereas the way that he
yeah.
was playing was very dynamic, very quick, fast track, all of that. And I think the thing that he's more than answered this year and at the back end of last year is that he's got the physicality to play men's rugby.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely. 100%.
absolutely, and in a season where Saints have lost, like if you think about some of the stalwarts of that forward pack, Alex Waller, Courtney Laws, Lewis Ludlam, and Sam Graham being injured for most of the season after that horror injury. You've got Henry Pollock, who has absolutely, I'm just going to ignore that, has
That's fine.
absolutely stepped up this season. He's physical, he's powerful and dynamic as hell. And the fact is, he's been playing eight a lot this season. He's playing a lot of seven, and he has had an absolutely incredible last few months. I mean, getting into that England Six Nations squad, getting two tries on debut
Mhm.
in the Principality in Wales, it was blimmin' incredible. And then to see how he is performing in the Champions Cup as well. I mean, the Prem season for Saints has been a bit lacking, and
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
they'll be the first to say that. But you can't lose as many players as they did and expect to do as well. But
Cool.
he has been fantastic all season.
He
I
has,
He's got,
absolutely.
if Saints win the Champions Cup, he's got a good chance of winning the European Player of the Year. And then again, does well on the Lions, gets a test cap or performs incredibly well. You're looking at Young Player of the Year right there. I mean, at the minute, he is the
Oh,
outstanding
yeah.
candidate for Young Player of the Year. And I always have a conspiracy theory about how World Rugby never wants to give England an award for an individual player because the amount of England players who should have won awards and did
Mhm.
not is really frustrating.
Fair
He
enough.
has got an absolutely huge chance if he continues on the trajectory that he is continuing. He's a world beater. He's an absolute like breath of fresh air in some ways, and in some ways, many would say he epitomizes English rugby. He's a young,
Fair.
floppy-haired, privately educated, wind up. He's arrogant. He's like, oh, we hate it, but really, he's just a young lad who's loving his ruggers, and he's
Yeah,
having the time of his
exactly.
life.
100%. One thing I want to add just before we move on is we've seen the post check celebration, we've seen the
Uh,
basketball flush. If he scores an alliance, he's going to have to like at the camera. He just has to.
Gotta be a little growl,
Little girl. Anyway,
little growl.
into the backs. We've got 17 backs going, confirmed. Andy Farrell has teased there might be two extra players, but we can talk about that in a minute. Bundiaki of Connacht and Ireland, second time tourist. Elliot Daly of Saracens in England, third time for him. Tommy Freeman of Northampton Saints and England, it's his first tour. Jamieson Gibson Park of Leinster and Ireland, also his first tour. Matt Hansen of Connacht and Ireland, first time tourist. Hugh Jones of Glasgow Warriors and Scotland, first time. Hugo Keenan and of Leinster and Ireland, also first time. Blair Kinghorn, Toulouse, Scotland, again, first time. James Lowe, Leinster, Ireland, first timer. Alex Mitchell, Northampton Saints, England, also first time. There's a lot of fresh faces in the back line. There's Gary Ringrose, Leinster, Ireland, also first time. Finn Russell, Bath and Scotland, it's his third tour. Marcus Smith, Harlequins and England, it's his second tour. Sione Tuipulotu of Glasgow and Scotland, it's his first time. Duhan van der Merwe of Edinburgh and Scotland, it is his second tour. And finally, Thomas Williams of Gloucester and Wales, it is his first time. And yeah, overall, again, can't complain. There was one big name that has been screaming around the media.
Absolutely,
And that's
Darcy
Darcy
Graham.
Graham. Yeah.
Darcy Graham. That's the one for me that every conversation I've had with anyone, and I've had a fair few. Darcy Graham is the name that is very unlucky to miss out in 21. There was a rumor that it was between him and Louis Rees-Zammit, and after the breakout year that Louis Rees-Zammit had for Wales in both the Autumn Nations Cup that they did, and then in the Six Nations, like his try to beat Scotland was just the pace, the raw athleticism that that young guy had. I think he might have been 18 or 19 at the time, so young, but
Something like that, yeah.
yeah, he was very young. but he had taken the world by storm, and he was even playing well for Gloucester. But
Mm.
there was a rumor that it was between Darcy and Louis Rees-Zammit, and he got it. And then I suspect that this year the Darcy would have been in direct competition with Mac Hansen, who I think a lot of the Irish boys that have gotten in, and I'll elaborate with the other two names that I think have gotten in. Mac, I think, has got in because he's been there and done it on a tour to New Zealand, which is a massive tour, which Ireland won a couple of years
Yeah.
ago. He has
Hmm.
been a performer for Ireland for many, many years, and he's just had a bit of recently injury troubles. He's got a load of credit in the bank, and I think, especially with a lot of Lions tours, if you have guys that you know are going to be able to do it, and you know them, and you coin flip, you're always going to go with your guy. And I think
Yeah.
that is also, and I'll elaborate. I think that is also why, personally, I think that is why Ronan Kelleher and James Ryan have gotten in.
Okay.
I believe that Ronan Kelleher has gotten in over potentially a Dowie Lake or a Jamie George
Hmm.
because the coaches. I mean, John Fogarty, I think, is scrum coach, forward coach of Leinster.
They've never really clarified who the coach, like
Scrum, no,
what.
he's scrum
Yeah.
because obviously
From, yeah. Sorry.
John DL is forwards coach. So John Fogarty may have get that coin flip of like, well, we know Ronan, he has been on a Lions tour as well, so
Mm.
that may have got him over like a Dowie Lake or a Jamie George. But then it's an interesting one with James Ryan because if you're talking form, I wouldn't have said him personally.
Right.
If you're talking history and class and it's like the old adage, form is temporary, but class is permanent. If you're talking about credit in the bank and who he is and how
Mhm.
unlucky he was not to go on the last tour in 2021, that's why he's in. But I personally, for me, he's one of those guys that I don't think I would have taken just because I didn't think that he had the necessary form right
Yeah.
now to. But Ronan Kelleher, but the thing is, James Ryan and Ronan Kelleher are both fantastic players. Like
Oh yeah,
so is
absolutely. Yeah.
Matt Hansen. These
Yeah.
aren't duff. These aren't like maybe the whatever they got called in 17, the Gatland Six or the Global Six or the.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's. I don't believe it's that type of appointment. It feels like you've got trusted guys of the coaches, and that is why they have been selected. But you can't accuse them of bias in every position because there are lots of other guys. Like if you think that a Robbie Henshaw is very unfortunate to miss out, or a Sam Prendergast, they've got the backing of their coaches. So
True. Yeah.
in some ways, you can say that they're fortunate to be going because they've got the coaches. But then you also got the flip side of the other Irish players who aren't as fortunate to go.
Mm.
But yeah, speaking on the squad as a whole, I'm very happy with it. I think that
Yeah.
there's a lot. The one area that I think that, well, the two areas that I think that we are potentially light in,
Uh-huh.
I think there needs to be another specialist number eight. Personally, I think
Okay.
yes, you've got Ben Earl, you've got Henry Pollock, the dynamic eights. Yes, I don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough ball carrying in that. I think that you've got the big second rows who are probably going to do a lot of it, and the loose heads like Schumann, Porter, and Genge. They all play like back rowers in their carrying game with the
Mm.
physicality and how well they do that. And then you've also got Tyke Furlong, Xander Ferguson, Will Stewart, all who are very good carriers as well. You've got a monster in Cowan Dickey who, yes, he's not everyone's cup of tea, maybe from a technicality point as a rugby player, but in terms of pure animalistic
Mhm.
grunt,
Yeah.
he's going to have you.
Mm.
But I,
Absolutely.
I just, I just worry that I maybe would have had a Tom Willis instead of one of the second rows just to add that, like, right, we've got another big
Mm.
eight who can do that big ball carrying, especially with the way that Tom Willis has been playing for club and country. And then
Yeah,
the
that's a good
only
point.
the only other thing that I worry about in the back line is I think we're a little light on centres. Yes, you have Elliot Daly who is going to be covering
Everywhere.
like both wings, 13, 15, long range boot. Some would argue he was lucky to get in, but I think he's just peaked at the right time again because he's a class operator,
Yeah.
good tourist. I just think that four centres with a utility back, I personally think that's a bit light. So I'm hoping that with Andy Farrell hinting at the additional two players, I'm hoping that we get a number eight and a centre coming in. But if it is a centre that they're waiting for form and fitness, it does seem like there may be a suggestion of an Owen Farrell,
Um, I don't know.
which, which
I don't
I
know because the form isn't coming. And I'm not being harsh. It's
no,
not.
which
Racing
isn't.
are woeful this year, and
Mm,
every time Farrell seems to be getting back to what they should be wanting, he's either injured or he's suspended, and it's been a really horrible debut season for him over in Racing.
yeah, it has, and I don't really think that it's his fault. I think the last time he had this many injuries in a single season was uh the 21-22 season. Like he kept getting a few knocks, and that's the thing about Owen Farrell is that he's so robust and he's so reliable and he's such a competitor and a leader that you think that he barely ever gets hurt compared to some other
Yeah,
players who were hurt constantly. But when Owen Farrell is hurt, he is
is
hurt.
it for them? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
There is one. Sorry, you go.
I'll give him credit. I do think that this has just been a terrible season for him. But
Mm,
I do honestly believe that next year he'll come good for Racing. Whether that's
but
playing 12, whether that's playing 10, I think he will have, because in that Racing Leon game, he had a huge impact before he went off with his head knock. He was having a huge impact. So if he does get called up later because they need another centre and an experienced operator, because as you said, there's not a lot of Lions tourists in that back line. As
no.
a man to just be around the squad and to help out, it may not be the worst thing in the world.
When you say it like that, I don't see an issue with it. If it was to be like, no, he's coming in to be a test starter, no, go away.
No, I don't think that would be fair. But having him as a tourist, having him drive the standards, help Marrow, who would not mind having his leadership, I
Yeah,
believe.
true.
I think that he would be good in that sense. I don't think he should be coming in and then immediately like, oh, he's playing 10 over the three other guys, or oh, he's playing
Mm.
12 over Tuipulotu and Aki, who are both fully fit. Like
Yeah.
that would be bad.
There's going to be a lot of questions in the next coming months. I mean, we're still over a month before the Lions even play their first game, and it's already caused a headache because it's less than a week after the Premiership and URC final, and it is a week prior to the top 14 final. I mean, there's a lot of boys there that, like, I think we drafted up, or you did definitely did a draft 23, and you've put like crosses in certain positions, and I'm looking at it going, you're just going to have to do a quick turnaround on some players, and it's not ideal, but it, it's going to have to be done. We're going to get into all the ins and outs when it comes to clubs and who's going to be most affected because a lot of chopping and changing this week in both Premiership and the URC. Two things, sorry, I will leave with the Lions before we move on is I do feel Marcus Smith is quite lucky. Not through his own fault. I think if you did it from the autumn, 100%, fully justified. I think probably from January till now, with the chopping and changing of positional options at England, he was starting 10 and he was at fullback, then he was on the bench and he wasn't playing. That's a lot in the space of 6 weeks for a player to deal with. And then, again, not to rub it in your face, Quinn's form hasn't been great. And it's really dented his chances because we said it that I thought George Ford was actually going to go just on form alone. But it shows that Marcus actually has enough credibility in the tank as well. So I'll give him that. And my second thought, and it could be biased, but everyone that has any view on the Lions, there's going to be biased choices behind it. I think Scotland might get to do the global six or whatever. Not six, but five. I think we're next door to New Zealand. I think we're going to take five lads. They're not going to play much, if at all, against any of Scotland's opposition. I think they're just there, train, keep the engine running, just in case somebody goes down. And the five for me, personally, is Jamie Ritchie, Rory Darge, Ben White, Tom Jordan, and, of course, Darcy Graham.
I would agree that I think that a lot of the guys that you have named are the ones that if there are injuries, they will be one of the first. I do actually think that Jamie Ritchie is quite unlucky to miss out on the squad, but from
Yeah.
the makeup of it, it looks like that they've gone for locks who can also play six because they wanted to take more of the sevens or the
Mm.
dynamic sevens who play eight as well, like Earl and Pollock are 7-8, and then Chesson, Byrne, Itoje, and Cummings are all like lock six. Whereas like
Mhm. Yeah.
Ryan and McCarthy are more of the fives, if that makes sense.
No, I get you.
And
I get you.
I would agree that I do think that a lot of those guys will be like Ben White and Thomas Williams. Arguably, that was one of the biggest coin flips of all. But it's yeah. And on the Marcus Smith point, I think that if you're looking at current international fly halves who have the experience of the Lions tour, who are currently playing international rugby, there are only two, Finn
Yep.
Russell and Marcus Smith.
Mhm.
That's one thing that I think counts in his favour. The other thing that I
Yeah,
think
of course.
counts in Marcus' favour is the fact that he has a body of work before the Six Nations this year that messed him around, and also the Harlequins that just messed him around. And I think it's just been it's been a very disconnected year for him. But it just shows how short some people's memories are because Marcus Smith was
Of
unplayable
course.
in the
Yeah.
autumn. Everyone was saying he's fantastic, he's amazing. You get like top international players like Will Genia are comparing him to Quade Cooper. I have heard multiple Kiwis confirm him to Carlos Spencer, two of the most skilled fly halves that we have ever seen, like game breaking individual talent. And I think that he gets in because he has a body of work before a bad 6 week period where he has
Mhm.
been quality for Harlequins for a long old time. He's been quality for England for a long old time, despite the chopping and changing. He's just had a very, very bad run of 6 weeks. But Quins as a whole have had a very bad run. It's not just indicative of him.
Mhm.
And the thing that I think really ends my point is Andy Farrell said that Marcus wasn't in the conversation between Finn and Finn, who are out and out tens. He was going
Mhm.
as a 10-15, 15-10. So he is going as a utility back. So in a
Okay.
6-2 split, he might be the 23rd man, or there might be some midweek games where he plays fullback, especially
Yeah.
considering some of the injuries to the guys who can play fullback, i.e.,
Mhm.
Blair Kinghorn and Mac Hansen, currently who are not fit. It could be that Marcus is being relied on to play fullback more. But I would argue, and this may be a bit of a critique on Harlequins coaching standards and England coaching standards, he might actually get more effective coaching as being a fullback, being on this Lions tour than he has had previously. So we could see
Might
him,
do. Yeah.
you could see him develop his game even more because how many people thought that Bowden Barrett would end up being world class 15 and a world class 10, despite
There
his
we go.
individual breaking talent. Sorry to everyone that I've compared Marcus Smith and Bowden Barrett. I'm simply saying they are individual 10s who have a game breaking ability, but can
Mhm.
manage a game and goal kick as well.
That's fair. But yeah, overall, very stacked squad. There's going to be some stacked players that are on that waiting list. Whether they get a shot, we don't know, but we're still over a month. We've got club rugby to talk about. We're going to talk about the main parts from. Do you want to start with the Prem or the URC?
Should we go Prem?
We'll go Prem. It's shorter, it's a bit more compact. The race for the top four is definitely on. Leicester Tigers all but confirmed that home semi final. That was an absolute barnstormer against Sale Sharks, just really putting their hand up. And it was just great to see. Like, across the board, for both teams, there were so many players putting their hand up for international call ups or for Ollie Chesham and Luke Cowendicky's case. This is why I'm a Lion. This is
Yeah.
why Andy Farrell has trusted me. There is also that big scare now 24 hours after that squad was announced and Tom
Mm,
Curry comes off injured. So instantly you're thinking, oh crap, like who knows who can come in? Maybe Jamie Ritchie, like
yeah.
we just mentioned. And again, nobody wishes injuries, but I feel like the players that were on the not quite there, they're now like Come on, here we go.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be looking at. I mean, we don't actually know the full extent of Tom Curry's injury yet. All they've said that it's a hamstring issue. They're awaiting scans, and it could be that he's out. It could be that he's not. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah,
injured players that are already on the tour, but you're absolutely right. Some of those that Leicester Sale game was just like the physicality that you saw, but also the try scoring that you saw, and the way that the ball, like George Ford was running lines for days. It was like an episode of Narcos. The amount of lines he was running, it was just fantastic to watch. And it's sort of two guys who I think that a few years ago, and these are Leicester wingers who were touted as international players. Like, why is Eddie Jones not selecting these guys? Oh, this is ridiculous. Ollie Hassel-Collins and Adam Radwan are proving that they are excellent try-scoring players. Like,
oh yeah,
I for years I always liked Adam Radwan. He's probably the fastest rugby player on the planet. I'm going to go out there and say I think there is a stat to prove it. I don't know what it is, but I think there is something. He has moved to Leicester and he's just being utilised properly. And it's amazing to
yeah,
see what actual good coaching to play effective rugby will do to a player. Like Leicester early in the season, I was really critical of them because even though they had Michael Checker, they had two big centres who were just crashing the ball. They had wingers, they weren't utilising them. But as soon as they've made a few changes, they've used a ball player at 12. They are utilising their wingers, they are getting them into space, and they are scoring tries. And they've got the forward pack to back it up, and it just looks so effective. And and Sale over the years have been a real like bogey team for Leicester. You really think that they
yeah.
can do something over them, but it was such a great thing to watch. I think Aaron Reid has got a chance of going with Scotland. I think that
Mm.
Freddie Stewart again had another solid game. He was breaking tackles. He was attacking from deep. I still want to see him experimented at 12 personally. I still want
See
to
how
see it.
just like you said 12 for England, and again, still with the same game. I think there's no reason why you can't think about Ricketti Maasai White.
Oh, phenomenal. He's
Freakishly
filled
young as
that
well.
Tuolangi.
I did not
He's filled
realize he
that
was that young.
Tuolangi and Naya Falevu hole. Like
Yeah,
I'd seen him a bit. I think he was called up into an England A squad, the first one against Portugal. I watched him a bit. He's only 22,
yeah, that's
and the
what I was saying.
size of him, he's
Like,
huge. He's
young.
powerful. Some of the tries that he scored, tackles he was making, he just looked every inch what Sale needed at 12. And I think that having Ford 10, him at 12, and Rob Dupree at 13, you've got a 10, 12, 13 that has got game management, brilliant passing, kicking, and then you've got physical response at 12, and then you've got another ball player at 13 who can equally play anywhere. And it has dented Sale's chances, and I think that there are some other teams that will be also gutted that they missed out. But I think Sale now have really got to get their act together potentially because they have got Saracens and Gloucester, Saracens had a whopping victory. If we move on to that now, they've now got the chance to.
Yeah,
They
they
could
could
have
they could
potentially
snap it.
lost it. Like, but I mean, not much to say about the Saracens Falcons game. It was essentially a team run. You got some of the Lions boys playing well, and to be completely honest, congratulations, Alex Good with 400 club appearances. I mean,
Unheard of, unreal.
that
Uh,
a a quartet of centuries that he has got for that club. And the only
yeah,
person who seems to be near to him at the minute is Mr. Danny Kerr of Harlequins, who
yeah,
looks
yeah.
like he's chasing that as well. But anyway, Itoje getting on the score sheet, Earl playing well, Jamie George and Theo Dan, maybe with a bit of points to prove to say, let me go with England. I want to be on standby to potentially go on this tour. But for the
Mm.
most part, I think that it was essentially a team run from Sarries, and I think that they're peaking at the right time. They're trying to get into that playoff spot, and with
Mhm.
Sale slipping up and with Gloucester slipping up, there's a chance that they could get it.
You know what game really disappointed me this weekend for the
I think
Prem?
I think I know what you're going to say.
Bristol versus Bath.
Yeah, 100%.
Principality Stadium. over 50,000. Sorry, neighbour's dog's enjoying the sunshine if you can hear that.
Ah, it's all right.
Um, yeah, and credit where credit's due. Bristol went pretty much full noise.
Mm,
Bath, well, Bath sitting pretty at the top of the table. That is confirmed. You can't catch Bath. They have a
yeah,
European final in over a week. They went, we're not going full noise. Why would we do that?
yeah. It's the thing is, it's the critique that a lot of people have had for like some of the South African and French teams over this year as well, and what Leinster do as well, in the sense that they send a kids team because the other guys are resting. Like, oh, kids, you have that opportunity. I mean, on the flip side, you can say that it's a fantastic opportunity for some of those young lads to go and play at the Principality for 51,000 people. That is incredible to have that opportunity as a young player. But
Yeah.
that is meant to be on the flip side, you have a Harlequins and a Gloucester at Twickenham on the same day, just 2.5 hours later, both of who went full noise. Yes, arguably Gloucester didn't turn up, but that's besides the point. You've got two teams that are going full noise, and Quins had a dead rubber of a game, but they went full noise and they wanted to go and have a fun day. Bristol wanted that playoff spot, which they are now. I think they're very firmly third at the minute, pushing for second. So they wanted
There's
to have
so
their
the
great fun
only
time, but then it's all. I don't want to say it's a mockery of the tournament because it's not.
it's
That's a
not.
bit far, but essentially, Bath had nothing to lose, nothing to gain. So
Yeah.
they've said, you know what, let's have the kids have a day out. But on as well as that, there was also again the Exeter Saints result, the fact that
We won. We
which
won.
Exeter won, which is amazing for
Yeah.
Exeter. But Saints said a kids squad because they wanted to rest their guys for the European final.
Which is valid.
Which,
I completely understand it. If we flipped it, if Exeter Chiefs were in a Champions Cup
yeah,
final, oh God, I miss those days. We would have rested players.
yeah, I think anyone would have really, but I can understand the for. I feel like each team has their justifications for why they did it, but I do think it poorly reflects Bath a lot more, considering you've got this incredible day where Bath and Bristol are two cities very close to each other, who are also very close to Cardiff in Wales,
Yeah.
and you're not going full noise. You don't want to see Finn Russell, Alfie Barbary, Ben Spencer go head to toe with all of these incredible players. I think it's a little bit disappointing, but if we're looking at the positives, what a day for some of those young lads. What a
Oh
day
yeah.
for like guys like Kepi Tuipulotu, Kieran Donahue, who is looking he rapid 10, 15, and
Yeah,
he's looking
yeah.
very, very nice.
Well, he looked nice until Bill
Oh,
Maher got a hold of him. Yeah.
well,
Jesus.
it's a repeat of the Henry Slade tackle. He just went, "I'm going to end you, bro," and then did. But to be fair to Donahue, he seemed to get up quicker than Slady. But then again, he's probably about 12 years younger than
Bit
him,
younger,
so
yeah.
he'll bounce it off a bit easier. But I'm just thinking, I can see that Big Bill will probably do that one more time by the end of the season. I
Oh,
think he's going to do it.
probably.
I think he's going to do a hat trick of massive, massive shots. He really
I
did
always
prove that I am the flying Fijian.
I always laughed when obviously when he was at Edinburgh they called him Big Bill Maher. I'm like, is
Mm.
he big because like muscular? I didn't realise until I think it was like the stadium announcer said it at the time that Bill Maher is 6'8". He is a monster of a man. He is a freak of nature. Yeah. He is a big, tall boy that has the pace of a sevens player. Yeah, he is a genuinely all
That is
round
that's a
freakish
freak
athlete.
athlete. That's
Sure, but
that's
yeah,
that's
he's
potentially
tall.
taller than Eben Etzebeth. It's potentially as tall as like an Arche Snyman.
Yeah.
That is a. I thought he was only about maybe 6'5", but he should be playing in the row realistically.
I think he could as well if you really want him to.
Well, it's a bit like Chandler Cunningham South. Chandler Cunningham South can play second row, 8 and 6, and he's going to monster and jump and smash people anyway. So yeah, credit to Bristol for what. I mean, it was a bit ropey for a while, but
Yeah.
if anything, the fact that put another positive spin on the fact that Saints and Bath sent the kids or the Shags. I don't want to call them the Shags. That seems mean, but it just proves that English rugby has got a lot of talent coming through because those boys did a credit to themselves. I mean, I always say that Exeter, despite the fact that it's not been the best season this year, I always say that Sandy Park is one of the toughest places to go in the league. You've got a loud fan base. They get a lot of decisions down there because of that loud fan base. And it is one of the hardest places to go. And yet, those guys were in it for the longest time until the Skinner intercept and the Paul Brown Bampo finish. Well, I
I
mean,
just want to quickly talk about Paul Brown Bampo. What a breakout player he has been. I think he
from
has
but
20 tries in like all comps this year for Exeter Chiefs. And considering how shit
bad
Exeter Chiefs have been, yeah. And he's scoring 20 tries.
from
Okay.
Buck Super Rugby as well. Like from the university rugby program in England, Exeter pick him up, and if anything, he looks like he's got bigger as the season's got on. Like I was,
Probably.
and this is a bit detailed, but I was looking at him when he was like in full flight running. The rig the man has,
Oh,
like
huge.
the
Massive.
pure athleticism. I didn't realize he's about 6'3", and
Yeah.
he looks like he's got bigger and stronger and better as the season's gone on. And he just looked every inch a Premiership player. And he's got a real chance of potentially going on that England summer tour. But there are so many wingers that have got a chance for that. And one of them
Right.
I'd like to mention is that Caden Murley, that hat trick, ripping through Gloucester, ridiculous.
It was very good.
I will.
Well,
I'm
well played.
sort of talking about that Quins Gloucester game very quickly. For
Mm.
me as a Quins fan, it was amazing to see that we actually turned up. You had Marcus pulling the strings really well, the scrum functioned well, and it just proves that when you there is a certain DNA that every single club has that you even if you want to expand the game slightly, you need to have that DNA that is Saracens will always have a big forward pack. Leicester, Sale, all these guys will have big forward packs and they will try and assert themselves physically, but it doesn't mean they can't chuck the ball around. Quins had brilliant shape. They were ripping Gloucester to shreds. They played with a
They were.
12 who was actually a 12. Will Evans and Jack Henningham, the pilferers of the breakdown.
That's so good. So good. I
Ridiculous.
just want to clarify, I made a little mistake about Bell Mata. So
Oh, not 6'8".
he's not 6'8". However, still reading this and seeing what he does is still freakish. So he stands at 6'5".
I thought he was 6'5". Yeah.
He is 125 kilos though.
That is more of an 8 to be fair than a second row. Yeah, that it just proves that it's mental that some players, like a Billy Vunipola, is probably closer to 140. Billy Vunipola can't move like Bill Mata. Like
No.
they're ridiculous. Like how France have never managed to get him over there in terms of a French club because they would just say put on more size and he could be even more destructive. But
More. We need
yeah,
more. We're going to move over though, just because there's so much at stake in this going into this final round of the URC. So
oh,
Leinster,
huge.
Leinster are sitting pretty because well done. You put 70 on Zebra when you went full noise. Good for you.
Yeah.
I don't care. I really couldn't
I
care
feel
more.
like that. But my conspiracy theory is that that was a bit of a punishment for getting beat by Saints. Like, no, 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 you don't get to rest against Zebre. You've got to go and beat them, and you've got to go full out. But yeah, fair enough. They were great.
Can't even say it's a teachable moment because it
Yeah,
wasn't. Big upset because defending champions Glasgow Warriors, quite frankly, did not show up against Benetton because they were absolutely smashed off the park, 33-7 to the
what
Italian side. And you know what?
they were woeful.
Could have been a lot more.
Oh yeah, I watching some of that game. You look at some of the decisions that the Glasgow players were making. Like, why are you doing that? Is there a
Yeah,
hangover here? I mean, fair play to Hugh Jones coming back from fitness and he scores a try. Yeah, that's great, but
that's it.
beaten off the park. Like, I mean,
Actually, no, I'll give Murphy Walker praise. He's been out. He's been on the sideline for over just under a year.
Yeah, yeah.
I
That
think I think it was 8 days shy of a year, and now he's back playing. So that's always you always great to see stories like that. But they've now
it
slipped to,
was that
they've slipped to third. So if they get past the quarterfinal, they're going to have to do it the hard way again. And
again.
yeah, and I don't see it happening this year. I am
I,
going to move across though to the M8, my beloved Edinburgh. We're still in the hunt, and ironically, we needed Glasgow to do us that favour to help us, but it didn't happen. But we still got the win. We got 5 massive points away in Galway against Connacht and Charlie Shield. What a try!
like, isn't that his first return in a long time as well?
First proper game in a while, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Not just through injury though, just through selection. He's played since we lost Ben Velicott at the middle of April.
mm,
Obviously, he's filled in, but again, he's been given like 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there because
he's
he
not
tried.
really had an
Yeah,
effective impact on the game. But no, the try from Charlie Shield I mean, it was just instinctive play, which is
yeah,
sometimes that you can have all the structure in the world, you can have all of the coaching in the world, but sometimes if you see a gap and you
go
know
for
that
it.
you're going to get it, you've got to get it.
Yeah,
But I think it was a huge
absolutely.
result. It's a huge result for Edinburgh, but also something that was huge.
Mm.
Oh my Tui Pelotu. He absolutely leathered Bundy Aki. That was Tongan, Scottish, Italian, Australian on Samoan, New Zealand island crime. That was, to quote Matt Hansen, poly on poly.
Yeah,
Or
Polly, yeah,
it would literally like it was just a monster hit, and you could like not many people can sit down Bundy Aki like that. But
not like that.
also another poly on poly crime that I saw this weekend: Joshua Tuisova running over Manu Tuolangi.
Just casually, just
Just
brush over.
casually.
Yeah,
I know that it's sort of diverting a lot, but I had to mention that as well
no,
because we've
fair,
seen some
fair.
absolutely like a lot of Polynesian heritage 12s just melting people like Riketi
Smash
Maasi
people.
White, Bundy Aki, Sesi Tuipulotu, all of
Mhm,
these guys.
mhm.
And it just like some huge hits that we saw. But I
Massive.
think for Edinburgh, it's a massive result. And it now puts you guys in such a position on the last day of the season to get the result. I personally don't think that who have Benetton got next week?
Monster. I shouldn't laugh. I shouldn't laugh because
Oh, nah,
because
I don't.
the way
I
it
think
fits, it's
Peter Romani's last.
last
One of
ever game, last ever regular.
and Archer and Murray.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
They
that
all
I
played
think that it's
they all did their last game at Thomond Park, but this one's at the small one in Cork, the
the
Virgin.
Cork one. Yeah, the Virgin Stadium or
This
something.
is how tight the URC is, right? So you've got Leinster Bulls, Glasgow, and Sharks. They're all confirmed. They're all in the playoffs. You've
Sharks have
then got
really quietly gone about their business. I just want
they
to
have
add,
they
really, really
absolutely have.
well.
Stormers, I would say, are in that safe zone. They could still drop, but like
They
they
probably
have the
are
play.
in. Yeah, yeah.
It's it's the gap between sixth and tenth that is hurting my head. So you've got
Mm.
Scarlets on sixth place with 48 points. You've got Benetton in seventh with 46. Munster in eighth with 46. Cardiff in ninth, also on 46. And then in tenth, you've got Edinburgh on 44. Now, the matches, I I know that we have to do our own job, but it does benefit Edinburgh. Cardiff are against the Stormers in Cape Town.
Ooh, okay.
The
Yeah.
Scarlets are in the Shark Tank in Durban. Benetton are in Cork against Munster. Edinburgh host Ulster.
That, in all honesty, that is for your sake. It is in your control. And the fact that some of these guys are playing, I mean, fair play to Scarlets getting a win in South Africa for the first
Oh yeah,
time, which is huge. And Scarlets are very quiet. Scarlets and Sharks are two of the teams that I think are very quietly, despite the fact that they have got a large majority of the Welsh and South African teams, they've very quietly gone about their business, and they've managed to put themselves in a brilliant position. And that game
yeah.
is going to be because Sharks will want to try and finish as high as possible. So they will want that win The Scarlets will have all the confidence in the world from beating the Lions. Stormers have got loads of their big players back. Their back line is absolutely stacked. The way that those guys
Unreal.
can ball play, I I do think that the South African sides will get the edge on Scarlets. And who are the Stormers playing again? Did you say Cardiff?
Cardiff, yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll get the nod. I don't think Benetton are going to beat Munster, and I would personally believe that Edinburgh would beat Ulster. But Ulster have got a lot to play for in the sense that loads of their guys are leaving.
Yeah,
Loads of their guys are
so,
leaving.
so. I know I'm just being fully biased now.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
yeah,
no, okay, I'll
yeah.
be voice of reason. They'll want to have one last hurrah. But it's a bit. I mean, Ulster aren't really in the contention, so they'll want to play for pride. If they lose, they want it to be like they lose by three. You never want to lose, but
No, fuck that. I
yeah.
want. This is going to be a sellout as well. Now,
Oh yeah.
if you've never seen Hive Stadium sold out, it is not the biggest ground. It is
No,
just under eight. It's just under 8,000. But my God, can we make that
it
sound like
gets
30,000?
noisy. The Bath game was noisy. So yeah, you're definitely right that I would say that Edinburgh they've got to do it themselves, which I believe
Yep.
they can do. But then they've also got a lot of fortunate matchups, a lot.
See, there's the bit that's also tripped me up, and it's got me more anxious. Edinburgh's game is on the Friday night, and it kicks off at 25 to 8. So 7:35.
Friday Night
Munster
Lights.
Benetton, also on the 16th, kicks off at 8 o'clock at night. So we could get the job done and then sit and be like half an hour later, like, shit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then you wouldn't. That's the thing that is very interesting to see. That is it that Benetton will be able to do over Munster. I personally don't think they will. I think Munster have got a lot more experience than Benetton in this regard. But I think Benetton will just slip out, and I think Edinburgh will be, especially in the way that they did go out of the Challenge Cup. They'll want to be in that playoff position because I think you as an Edinburgh fan will probably agree. I think you guys are fed up of being in the Challenge Cup. You want to be in the Champions. You want to be in the Champions. It's more money, it's better matches, and you could attract potentially a higher caliber of player because living in Edinburgh, lovely part of the world, and then also, you're in Champions Cup. Yeah, I'll go there.
So yeah. I mean, I'm just fed up of not winning in it. I'm at this point now. We've
Yeah,
been so close. And I know Edinburgh's not a big team by no stretch of the imagination, but like,
relative to some of the other big teams.
well, we're very well historical.
Yeah, I would
But
say you're on the same level as like a Connacht, and Connacht just had a year where were very good and won the league. But in terms of stature, you wouldn't really say that like an Edinburgh or a Connacht were that dissimilar in stature.
no, I
Are
would
they?
say Edinburgh on paper should be a top six side.
Yes. I mean, if you look at some of the players that Edinburgh have, like a lot of the Scotland squad, the two record try scorers.
Yeah, just casual sitting out on the wings. Yeah,
Yeah,
we do have
but
one of the best entertaining Argentinians also on the shelf, but that's a different story. And
hmm
it's getting rough. Also, just because you mentioned them, Mississippi Tuipulotu is awaiting a scan as well,
yeah, it's
which is annoying because his brother is literally like on the cusp of coming back to return, and it was always like, I know it's not going to happen this summer because Sione's going with the Lions, but ever since it got announced that Edinburgh were getting Mississippi, we're like, we could get the Tuipulotu brothers, and it's just never happened because
two E
Mississippi
Pelotu,
two number two
two
E
E
Pilotu,
Pelotu,
Tuipulotu. But
two E
you get,
Pelotu.
yeah, or that works as well. That's a very good one. Yeah, but you get like Masesi was called up in the autumn. He wasn't ready, so he played the
No,
A.
no.
He played the A fixture while Sione was giving gang signs against his home country, which we've got to love.
It was
Um,
brilliant.
and then the Six Nations came round. Masesi wasn't in the squad, and Sione was injured.
Yeah, it's just waiting for the that Scotland squad, that Scotland cap is coming, and I do think that it is going to happen, and I do think it may happen this summer. because as he's played more club rugby for Edinburgh, he has got better and he has got more,
Yeah,
and he's not been rushed too much. There have been times where he's come off the bench and he's learned how to make
yeah,
an impact. I and also it just means that if he does eventually get his cap, there's a potential that the youngest brother, the hooker, uh,
he'll come.
Otavio Tuipulotu, it just gives him more onus to come over as well. Maybe there's another hooker that plays for Scotland who, and you could have the three Pilotus or the
Tripod.
Tuipulotu, I don't know. I'm not a wordsmith.
Tripod.
Trio Pilotu, Trio Pilotu. There we
Three
go.
or
We
four.
got
There
there.
we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Masessi's played over 20 times for Edinburgh this season, and you don't
Has he
think
played
it
20
doesn't. He's
games?
played over 20 games. Yeah,
Well, that's so interesting because James Lang and Matt Curry have also had a massive sort of like they've
yeah.
played so well
Kind of
together.
rotated those three quite well. So
Yeah, Langy,
it's
Curry,
exciting.
and Tui Pilotu sort of have had, but they all can play with each other. Like, I mean, Langy helps in the sense that he can play 12 and 13 equally well. Sessi plays 12 a lot, and then Curry plays 13 wings. So there's combinations
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
and there's been those
Oh,
partnerships that have been built that is great to see. But
but
yeah,
right, we're going to leave it there because we've talked about a lot. We've talked about the Lions, the
oh,
headache
but
for the Argentina game, the ramifications from a very high scoring Premiership round,
yeah,
and then the URC. Every time people say that, oh, the URC is boring. How? How
I
is this?
I
How is this boring?
I don't really agree with that at all. I think, yes, there's a bit of a Leinster being top all the time for the last few years. Yes, that can be dull. But there is
Doesn't mean
so
anything
much.
though when they don't win.
No, but there is so exactly. But there is so much jeopardy for those top eight places. And you've got
I
some
think,
teams who have just very, very casually just got in there. Like
yeah,
as like Sharks last year were terrible, despite
yeah.
having most of the double winning Springboks. But having, I think, Andre Esterhazy come back in, who I miss you, Andre, so much. Having him come back in and work with Ethan Hooker and Yuan and Jerenza Julius,
Mm,
and the way that they have just been, yes, maybe in Europe the South African teams haven't been great, but I think they're still in the teething process of the URC. I think they're still
mm,
learning how to balance it properly. And come a few years, like the Bulls have been fantastic. Again, they've been, even though there have been some results where it's been dead rubber. Stormers have also been dead rubber a couple of games, but all three of those teams are in the top eight, and they have
yeah,
slowly crept up there. Bulls had another big win as well, and I just can't agree with that. And the fact that like, despite Welsh rugby having a bit of a terrible, torrid 2 years, 3 years. You have got Scarlets who have managed to sneak up there. Well done, Dwayne Peel. And Cardiff, who have been there or thereabouts the whole season. Yeah, they've
mm,
slightly slipped up a bit, but they're still there. So you have
yeah.
potentially got two Welsh teams in the eight, two Scottish, three South African, two or three Irish, potential. No, two Irish,
Try
and
it.
an Italian. So you have got every single nation represented in that top eight potentially, and you have no idea what's going to happen in the final week of the season. And then again, all to play for when the knockouts come, because knockout rugby is a very different thing. And
As indeed.
we have seen that some teams are not good at knockout rugby.
I will not speculate who. You can fill in the gap on your on their own. They can fill their own
I can
gaps.
say three in the URC who I believe are not good at knockout rugby, and I will leave that as it is. But I will
There we
probably
go.
anger some countries there.
Some very strong fan bases, yeah.
Yeah, two very strong fan bases. Not sure about the third one.
Fair enough. Right, we'll leave it at that. It's been a great episode. We are so back. This feels like just a new chapter on Rugby Connection. We'll be back next week talking the final round of the URC. We'll be looking into the European finals and we'll also talk about a bit about the Prem. And yeah, Harry, always a pleasure, bud.
Always a pleasure.
And we'll see you next week.